right, everybody, welcome back into another episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast. Number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business. My goodness, everyone, this is episode 99.
One away from triple digits.
Almost to triple digits tomorrow. Christian Brindle, Glenn Shelton, and if you hadn't already heard, tomorrow we're doing a special live. I mean, it's always live, but we're doing a special 2-hour edition. Same time as always, but you can expect the pod to go an extra hour than it normally does. Typical shows go about an hour. So tomorrow's show will go 2 hours. And a lot of live Q&A. So if you are in the Facebook group, even if you're not in the Facebook group, if you're listening on a platform that is not the Facebook group, we highly encourage you to join the Facebook group and participate in this live and ask any questions you want. You know,
I'm going to say something. And there's no takebacks once this comes out of my mouth, but I'd like to give away 100 turning 65 leads on Friday in honor of our 100th episode that we're doing tomorrow on Thursday. That would be 10 winners, each getting 10 leads apiece. A massive freebie Friday, giving away thousands of dollars in retail value and turning 65 leads just by commenting. All you have to do is comment. Show up tomorrow and ask a question. We'll answer a question and you might win free turning 65 leads. We got a great question early this morning on a post I did about the Q&A. It's one of those things where like we get so far along in what we're doing that we don't think about a lot of things that I think happen maybe early on. So I'm not going to touch. I don't even want to mention the question because Christian will just try to answer right now, which is not what we're supposed to do. So I'm not going to say what that question is. Tune in tomorrow, same time as always, plus a bonus hour, like Christian said. All right, 3 minutes. NBA, go. Get it out of your system now, okay? I know you need to. I can see it brewing inside you. Just go ahead.
actually don't have any like current NBA stuff to talk about, but I do have something I wanted to start the show with before we jump into the main topic, and that is, main topic is how to actually have success working leads. We're doing a massive turning 65 lead sale with Lead Heroes right now. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but before we get into that main topic, I watched a documentary last night on Netflix that I was kind of interested to kind of briefly discuss. It's NBA related, but nothing current. I don't know if you knew it.
I knew it. He's trying to act like, I don't want to talk about the NBA. That's gross. I have a quick little NBA thing that you go first. And then I'll go.
I watched a documentary about this Gilbert Arenas, Javaris Crittenton gun locker room incident in like 2008, 2009.
Of all the NBA things to bring up.
Well, the documentary just came out, so it's now back in the mainstream focus, right?
Yes.
Apparently, for those of you that don't know this story, long story short, right? Gilbert Arenas, superstar player at the time, right? All-star, 30 points a game. He was like Steph Curry before Steph Curry.
Yes.
And then a guy.
He was awesome.
And then a guy who was kind of a bench warmer, right? They get into this spat. They bring guns into the locker room, kind of like almost like pretending like they want to shoot each other kind of thing, like never super serious about it. The guy who's a bench warmer apparently was a Crip, joined the Crips when he was living in Los Angeles. And it turns into this massive national scandal, right? The bench warmer guy, it ends up out of the league as a result. And then within a couple of years, he gets into a street skirmish with another gangbanger, shoots somebody, but hits the wrong person and kills an innocent woman who was a bystander. And then he goes to prison, gets 23 years, only serves 10 because he was high school teammates with Dwight Howard, and Dwight Howard's uncle was the district attorney.
I'm laughing, you guys, because if you went to AI and you said, create a documentary that keeps Christian glued to the TV for 1 hour, AI would magically create what he just said. All of these
It was
ultimate fantasy in a dog. This is
mind-boggling. Mind-boggling.
Wild.
If it's an hour and a half, it's not that long. It's only one part. If you
I'm gonna have to
time,
see it.
like even if you don't like sports, it's worth a watch. It's fascinating. I knew the story because I remember it came out when I was in high school, right? It was a national story.
Yeah.
But I didn't know all the details like this. Like legitimately, the district attorney that sentenced
Dwight Howard's uncle.
Yeah, and they were on the same high school team. Javaris Critton and Dwight Howard. Like,
is Dwight Howard a secret crypt that we just don't know?
But it was insane. And the fact of the matter is that here's a guy who shot and killed an innocent woman. She's 22 years old. She has 2 kids. Grow up without a mom. And he serves 10 years. And that's it. Now this dude's walking out. They showed us footage of him getting released from prison.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and they interviewed him for the documentary. He's in it quite a bit. And man, like my wife leans over to me and she's like, he should still be in prison. He should be in prison forever. I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, but I say all this to say the way it relates to the show today is
bring us back. Bring us back.
I couldn't help but think, here's 2 guys. Even if you're a bench warmer in the NBA, right, you still have amazing opportunity. It is I don't know how many people are playing the NBA at one time. Isn't it like 400 people, something like that?
Such a small number.
You hold a roster spot. You're in the 1% of the 1% of the 1% type of deal. It's an opportunity that you shouldn't squander. Both of these guys made such stupid, poor decisions and squandered away this opportunity, over like trolling each other, over like legitimate anger with each other, over I have to prove myself kind of to each other. And not to this level of degree, but man, how many people in life have great opportunities put before them? Robert Kiyosaki always said, poor stood for passing over opportunities repeatedly. It's tip commonly referred to in the MLM world, but I do think so it's kind of tainted a little bit, but it's used to recruit people. But I do think there's something to that saying in the sense of like, man, like you see it unfold before your eyes, like stupid decisions, and maybe not stupid decisions to that degree, but people make stupid decisions to a lesser degree that really cost them. And man, I mean, a couple wrong decisions in your life can blow up your opportunity. I'm just kind of, I felt kind of grateful that I was never made that many stupid decisions. I mean, stupid decisions, but not that stupid decisions. Because life could be totally different. So anyway, just found that kind of interesting.
It is very, very interesting. There's definitely, like, thinking back, there's definitely times in my life where I think things could have gone a different way at various points, where I'm sure I could have gone down some different paths, where maybe I did end up in some situations. I mean, you really think about it, it's like life is just a series of decisions. It's just a bunch of little decision making, and then you branch off. You make decision. Sometimes it's a really small one, but then all of a sudden that decision leads to another decision, and then you branched off in a completely different direction. So I'm sure there was many times where I could have gone a different way to end up ultimately here with you and Dr. Oz, on this podcast.
Might
today.
not be here with the 3 of us. The 3 of us. With the 2 of us this morning.
Just the 3 of us. Really quick, my NBA story. So, current events. The dogs have been absolutely barking. The underdogs are like 5 for 5 now in the last 5 games. They're on the road. They shouldn't win. They're winning these games repeatedly. It's wild.
That Indiana game was pretty wild last night.
Yeah. Halliburton, which I do think there's something to him being publicly trash talked as being overrated, has played into this mindset that he's playing out of his mind. But
yeah, he's playing awesome.
The debate here that I'm going to bring up is much bigger than the NBA. This is a massive sports debate overall. And this is directly applicable, I want to say, to the Medicare world as well, to being a producer, to being an agency owner. It is the rest versus rust debate. It is how much time off or time away is too much time, or you're out of the game, you're out of funk. There's several teams in the NBA right now that played these just super aggressive long series. They went to game 7. The Nuggets went to game 7. The Warriors went to game 7. Very close, very physical games. And then they had to turn around and jump immediately into new series with arguably better teams.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have thought on paper that would have led to a game 1 blowout, right? The Thunder, they were showing their schedule. They had like 10 days off after the regular season because they were the number 1 seed, and then they blew out in the first round whoever it was they were playing. I don't even remember now. It was the Grizzlies, and then they had like another huge break, right? And then they jump in with the Nuggets, who should have on paper been exhausted after this physical game 7, and then the Nuggets won. And then we saw the same thing with the Warriors last night. Game 7 physical. And so it's one of those things where it's like, if you get out of the routine, you get out of the habit, what happens? What happens as a team, as a player?
Yeah,
Thoughts?
I think there's a bit of a balance, right? Like, I do think there's something to be said about rust, right? If you have too much time off from as a team. I also feel like the playing argument of it, there's an argument to be had that maybe they're fresher, that type of thing. I think it could go either way because, someone could have a nagging injury, right? This time of the year, a lot of these guys have small little nagging injuries that we don't really know about.
For sure.
So like the more games they're playing in such a close proximity is probably harmful for them. But if they're relatively healthy, it probably helps them be fresher. So I think it kind of depends on a couple of different variables there. I do believe so. If I had to put a gun to my head at the beginning of this, I would have said I thought out of the Indiana Cavs series that I thought the Cavs would probably win, but I'd probably go 7. I'm shocked by what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's over. There's no way. There's no way the Cavs come back from a 2-0 getting swept at home, in my opinion.
It's a tall ask for sure.
Yeah.
I still just don't see a way Oklahoma City loses, even though they lost game 1. Like, that team is so deep. They're so good. They have so many players. Like,
just put on your Jokic jersey some point today.
we
need just a little magic, okay? Just a little magic. A little magic. They'll bring it.
Golden State series, I could see it go either way at this point.
Steph was hurt. Steph didn't even play most of last night.
I know.
Like, what? Game 7, you're on the road. You don't have your star player, and you win by 10 points against the Wolves, who are arguably a really good team. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Yes, these series are weird. Let me put it that way. A lot of these series this year have been weird. There's been quite a few upsets. The one that shocked me, I think, the most out of all these, though, the Oklahoma City Denver one shocked me. But like, they have Jokic, right? They always have a puncher's chance with Jokic.
Sure.
They showed his stat line, right? He had 40 points, 20 rebounds, and 6 assists. He's only one of 5 people in history to put up that stat line in the playoffs. Like, no one's ever done it. It was like Shaq, Wilt, like the names they're putting up on the screen. So they always have a puncher's chance with him. I feel like the one that shocked me the most was New York winning game 1 against Boston. I was really shocked by that because I don't know, like they just barely survived that round 1 series. Like, I felt like they didn't play all that well in that round 1 series. So it'll be interesting to see. I think there's a lot of variables with the rest versus playing thing. I think if a team is relatively healthy, I think the playing is probably better than anything else. Like, you've seen it with players having load management, right? You have load management. Players that have a lot of load management get hurt more often, probably because they're not in the thick of things. They're turning it off, turning it back on, turning it off, turning it back on, where it's probably better to just have it on and be going all the time.
Look at what happened to Lillard, right? Damian Lillard came back arguably too soon. He wasn't ready. It sounds like I think he ruptured or tore his Achilles in that game 2 or game 3 of the series. So let me I want to bring this back to what we're talking about, to Medicare, to sales though. And as a salesperson, what I can tell you is there is something about momentum. There's something about being in it. There's something about a routine versus taking a bunch of time off. And then when you come back into it, like I don't have hard stats for you guys this morning, but I'm sure if I could pull hard stats and I looked at like what my sales look like after taking a week or a couple weeks off, right? If I'm going out of town, if I go on vacation for a week and then I come back, what do my sales look like that first day back versus if I worked very hard every day last week and then I came right back after a day or two off and jumped right back into it on Monday. I would say 9 out of 10 times when I was already in it, I'm probably going to have a better sales day versus if I take a full week off. There's always going to be exceptions to that rule. And I think sports is very similar. I think there's like a momentum to it. I think, and yes, you do have to have rest too. So there is some variables where like you have to figure out rest that works for you while still staying active in it. And again, to really bring this full circle, when I look at the agents who only operate during AEP, they only really sell 2-3 months out of the year. You guys have such a fight. It's an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle for you guys compared to those of us who are in this every single day. We're going to be so much further ahead than an agent that just plugs into this 10 weeks out of the year, so that's something that I think it's always an interesting debate in all sports. And again, I think sales included is like this rest versus rust. How much rest is good? When should you rest? Versus this build of momentum of staying active.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for me personally, I've always felt like the more I've rested, the more I get thrown out of whack in terms of my daily schedule, my daily routine, and my work. I don't feel like I'm at my best self when I'm resting more than I'm working. If anything, like, I can't remember who said this. It might have been Cardone. He said something like, you've never met the devil. Take 3 days off. He'll come find you.
That's great.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that for a lot of people. Cause like, at some point you take too much rest, you take too much time off. I mean, I think the majority of us get bored. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. For me, I do better when I'm not resting as much. Like even when I go on vacation, I seem to do better with like the 4 or 5 day vacations opposed to the 2-week vacations. Like once I get 2 or 3 days where I'm completely removed, I'm kind of over it. I'm ready to get back to work. I don't need a lot of rest. But I don't feel like I was always that way. I think I've kind of become conditioned for that over the course of a decade. You know what I mean? Like I'm accustomed to that. I'm used to that. And I've kind of developed the calluses, if you will, for that. And I think I truthfully think that that's a good thing. I think taking too much time off leads to, bad productivity. I think taking too much time off leads to depression. Lack of a motor, right? Like you don't have the what's the word I'm looking for? You don't have the endurance built up of it.
No.
I just think it's probably not good. Like you also see people that like, they retire and they do nothing, and how quickly they just fall off a cliff physically, mentally.
All the time. Super common.
That can't be an accident, whereas you see other people.
It's not a coincidence.
That they're working until they're 80, 90. I'm not saying you have to do that necessarily, but like I've met a lot of people in my life that they're working maybe not huge hours, but they might be working 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week at something, and they're as sharp as a tack and they're 90,
Yeah.
I just think there's something to be said about productivity. And I don't know. I think you need some type of rest. You need some type of, ways to unplug. But I think for the most part, it's kind of overrated.
It's about finding that balance and without losing. So I mean, another example I'll give you guys, like I work out almost every single day, but I don't do the same workout every day. And some days are a lot lighter than others, but even by doing something light in the morning, I'm trying to stay in that window of keeping the momentum, keeping that pattern going. And I think, sales and work, it's really the same thing. Like maybe you have a light day, right? But you're still in it. You're
Doing
still in
something.
it. You're doing something. And I think that plugs directly into the retirement conversation of it, piece of it too. You might not be working 40, 50 hours a week at your job anymore, but you're still doing something. You're staying active. You're helping out. My son's basketball coach is a senior, and he's very spry, very mentally coherent. He's in his late 70s. He's also very active. He's always doing something. He's always going. He had a hip replacement and the dude bounced back from it so fast. I just remember watching him. I'm like, man, if I had a hip replacement, I don't think I would be moving as good. It was just like a week, I feel like, and he was back. I'm just like, this is crazy. Walking around, he had a cane for a little while, but there's something to that momentum. And I feel the same way. Like originally, I think I felt like I needed a lot more downtime. I needed a lot more time off to like reset, recharge. But now I feel like it's more work to get going again, right? Isn't that's like what it is? It's more work to get the momentum back. And so I try to take like I'd rather take a half day than take a full day off. I get more, I feel like, from taking a half day because I want to keep the momentum going because I got to jump back into it. I got to keep it going. I got to, whatever it is. It could be working out. It could be work. It could be sales. It could be, whatever it is. That's kind of that pattern. But I thought that was a great analogy based on what I felt like I was seeing with the NBA. It's like I'm seeing these guys, they're in it every other day for the past 2 weeks now. They've been playing these really long, hard games. And then you have these other teams that had a bunch of time off. They weren't playing together maybe as much. They weren't practicing as much. And it seemed like the teams that were in it every other day, like they had this leg up. They had the momentum coming into these new series. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
Yeah, I mean, the final thing I'll say about it, and then we'll kind of go into main topic and sponsor and everything like that. But I feel almost like, people talk a lot about like balance in your life. We've talked about this a lot on the show. And I am of the opinion, I don't think you can really have true balance, quote unquote, the way people envision it, right? Like I have two priorities in my life. My priorities are the business and my family, my wife, my kiddo. Everything else is a million miles away. Doesn't mean I don't have other priorities, but they're small. So every decision I make has to do with what is going to allow me to, be better for my daughter, for my son who's on the way, for my wife. And how can I do, run the business better, be more valuable to the business, help grow the business. Like with me being on this health journey I'm on right now, I'm about a month in now, something like that. I'm doing it so I don't feel as tired and fatigued to spend time with my family and to be able to work. That's why I'm doing it. It's literally to help me do those two things better. You know what I mean? If I didn't have anything to do, I probably wouldn't give a shit.
Really, really fast. How are you? I wanted because we did talk about this early on, when you were like a week into this. Now you're coming up on a month. We're getting close to a month. How's it going? How's the sugar-free life treating you?
It's good. I think when people hear sugar-free, they're thinking like zero sugar whatsoever. I'm going to say the least amount of sugar diet possible.
Natural sugar.
Natural sugar, fruits,
Very
things
limited
like that.
sugar.
Like
Yes.
virtually none, right? But not 100% none, because I don't think that's possible. Maybe it's possible, but
I think it's very difficult.
I'm doing no fast food, eating out as little as possible. I've probably eaten out. I could count on one hand how many times I've eaten out, gone with like a family member or something like that. And I'd order like a salad or something.
Right.
I did have pizza twice over the last month. I had cheat days I'd cheat, not even cheat days, a cheat dinner, having a couple slices of pizza. Those are my two cheat things. But I've not cheated by getting a sugary coffee. I have not cheated by having a donut, cake, nothing like that. I feel really good. I feel like I was feeling like when I wake up in the morning, I was really, I don't know, my body felt stiff. It would ache, like,
inflammation.
I think I told this, I had a lot of inflammation.
Yeah.
Like I would turn my head and it would hurt to turn my head. My neck was like, I don't know what. I was like, what is happening to me? I'm like 60 right now. I told the story, I think, before, where I had a moment. I got up in the middle of the night. I had to go to the bathroom, and I like legitimately had to like get myself out of the bed. I was like stuck in the bed, and that was
about to get him a walker. About to get him a walker.
I could
to
not,
the toilet.
Like, I couldn't like lunge up to get out of bed. Like that was like a big wake up call for me. I'm like, so I feel really good. I'm not having those problems anymore. With the gym, I have been having some pretty bad wrist pain on my left hand. I think I have carpal tunnel or something. I don't know what the deal is, but I've been working through that. I've been icing it, stuff like that. That's been helping.
Yep.
I'm doing a lot of weightlifting, way more than I ever have before.
Yeah, baby.
So
let's go.
No, all in all, I feel really good. I don't feel the inflammation anymore like I did. I've lost 10 pounds, I think.
Heyo.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel good.
That's fantastic.
Long story short.
I think you made it over the hump, in my opinion. Like I was saying before when we had talked about this, I've always, anytime I've tried to really cut sugar out, it's like that 3-week mark was always kind of the magic mark, where at that point I didn't really feel like I was like craving it. Like the first couple of weeks are tough because I feel like you're still thinking about it. You have like maybe a routine where like at night you're getting like a treat, ice cream or something after dinner. But I think if you've made it 3 weeks, you did it. You've probably eliminated, not only from your body internally, but also the habit of eating sugar. Not to say that you'll never go back. I had a bag of pretzel M&Ms last night. Every time I hit sugar now, I think about you and I feel guilty. You're like, there's like this little Christian on my shoulder. Like, are you sure you need that? I'm like, it's one bag of M&Ms, Christian. Like, well, that's what's going on in my head.
I felt guilty eating the pizza the 2 times I did. They were like cheese stuffed crust and everything. I was like, oh my God. Like, this is like, I'm like lusting after the pizza, pepperoni. I'm like, it was like something out of like a dirty movie or something like that. I was like,
go to confession on Sunday. You're like, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
So like, I would eat that. The 2 times I did slip up and eat the pizza. I felt like super guilty afterwards. Like, I'm like,
yeah.
I actually take that back. 2 nights ago, my wife did talk me into having a small Chick-fil-A fry.
Oh, that's right.
That's ordered it.
The pizza probably has more sugar. That Chick-fil-A fry, I don't think has much in it, to be honest. Those are pretty clean, I think.
Yeah, they're still not good, but yeah. So I guess you throw that in there, but I've been really good. Other than that, my biggest vice food wise was like super sugary coffees. I'm just obsessed with those.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. Coffee you drink with a spoon. Christian Brindle's specialty.
It wasn't even necessarily like it was ice cream or anything. It was like It was like always iced coffees full of God knows what, caramel, whatever. Just like I would order this large coffee at Dutch Bros. It was like probably this big, and there was this much caramel in it at the bottom.
Right.
Like it was like, so
Yeah.
I'd put my straw in, I'd start drinking it, and the first like 2 gulps are caramel. There's no coffee, there's no drink, it's caramel. I'm like,
diabetes.
and I feel myself dying as I'm swallowing it, but I'm like, oh, coffee, caramel, coffee,
Yeah.
milk.
And you're drinking
milk.
black coffee, and you're drinking black coffee now, right?
Black coffee with
Black
a splash
coffee.
of cashew milk. No sugar cashew milk.
Look at
no
you.
Calories, no sugar.
I feel like you do have like almost like a glow, like a healthy glow to you, like a pregnancy glow. You know, maybe
glow.
Yeah, maybe you're just getting it from your wife's pregnancy, but you look healthier. I'm seeing it.
Well, I'm trying. A big motivation for me too is like I want to look as good as I possibly can for the summit. Like I want people to notice a difference at the summit. Because I feel like the last couple of summits I've gone on stage and no one's actually said this, but I've just like seen pictures and seen it on camera. And I'm like, if I was going to the summit as an attendee and I knew what I looked like and I've watched videos and things like that, and then they see me walk on stage, they're like, ooh. They're like, yo, yikes.
Nobody, that's an internal monologue. Nobody has said that. Nobody has said that. Is definitely an internal monologue. Speaking of the summit, I'm excited. We are so close now. We are just about 50 days away, you guys. If you haven't already, 45 days. We're sub 50.
Hang on, I'll get us an accurate date count.
Salt Lake City. Days. 46 days. Salt Lake City, June 22nd to 24th. There are a few tickets remaining before we literally have to stop selling tickets because we won't have capacity in the room. So if you haven't bought a ticket yet for the 7-Figure Medicare Agent Summit, definitely feel free to head over there. Now, today's sponsor of episode 99 is actually Lead Heroes, your favorite senior insurance lead provider. Right now, we have a discount for our turning 65 leads where you can save $500 or more when you buy a minimum of 25 fixed cost, exclusive call verified turning 65 leads. These are folks that our team actually spoke to on the phone. They are double verified. They opted in online, and then we confirmed with them that they needed help and they wanted to speak to an agent about their Medicare options. If you're looking to stay busy right now in the off season, you need more prospects, head over to Lead Heroes right now. There's only 3 days left until this deal disappears. So head over to Lead Heroes, grab your turning 65 leads. You can buy more than 25. We got that question yesterday. Can I buy more than 25? Absolutely. We are not capping anyone as of this time on how many you can buy. Grab them before they're gone. Leadheroes.com, LeadHeroes.com.
Transitioning and speaking of Lead Heroes, right?
Yes.
Main topic of the show this morning. It took us a while to get to it. Apologize, audience. We had many things to discuss.
Some housekeeping. Yes, some housekeeping.
How to actually have success working leads. This is something that we have done a lot of content together and discussed. We've talked about it a little bit on the show this year. But I feel like there are a lot of people out there that do not understand how to actually work a lead to get maximum success out of it.
Yes.
And I feel like no matter what you're doing, no matter how you're prospecting, no matter how you're getting lead flow, these are principles that you need to have and you need to implement across the board. It doesn't necessarily just have to do with Lead Hero leads or anything like that. Like,
this episode of the 7 Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by the 7-Figure University. 7figureuniversity.com is a culmination of Christian Brindle's and mine's educational videos that we have developed over the past 2 decades of combined experience in the senior insurance space. There's more than 250 videos, hundreds of hours of content that can help you become a top producer or a top producing agency in the senior insurance space. We're talking about videos of how to work with specific carriers, how to do different types of marketing, such as seminars or Facebook advertising, how to generate content in the niche to help grow your business, how to grow an agency, all sorts of things. There's so much value in this. It's unbelievable. Christian, what do agents need to know about Seven Figure University?
Seven Figure University can best be thought of as an agency blueprint in a box that's put together for you that brings you step by step in every facet of building a successful seven-figure insurance agency and lays it out all in front of you so you can follow along. Whether you guys need help with marketing, whether you guys need help with branding, whether you guys need help with hiring, training, standard operating procedures, systems and processes, automation, you name it, it's covered in this course. Not only that, you get access to my weekly training calls every Thursday that go from January through the end of September on a week-to-week basis. And you can attend those live and ask questions live. And then, of course, the recordings are put into the university afterward if you can't attend it and make the live training. So there's just so much value. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and it's a great investment into your business to kind of keep you up to date on what's going on, but also kind of point you in the right direction in various things that you're struggling with.
Some of the best training you'll be able to find, you guys, in one spot for one price. Go to sevenfigureuniversity.com and learn more.
Let's get back to the show.
That
I want all of it now.
So that's number one. Number two, agents that just don't want to work that hard.
Yeah.
Not to say that you have to work unbelievably hard, I don't think. Nowadays, with different systems and tech and automation and things like that, there's a lot of ways you can touch leads and have contacts out to leads without you having to manually do it, right? Like with Seven Figure CRM, we've just, we're putting the finishing touches on some really great automations for all types of different leads, different sources of leads, everything like that. Each lead will get about 40 touch points before the automation is done. Like redonkulous. I used to say that we would do 20 to 25 internally. This is like doubling my own numbers. I would say that on stages. I'd be like, we touch our leads 20 to 25 times before the calls, or like not including the calls. And I'd hear in the audience, I'd hear gasp. I'd hear, so we're like Seven Figure CRM team. They're like, hold my drink, let's take this.
Goblet.
Yeah.
We're goblet.
So that's a big part of it. So let's talk about this, right? I think there's three things I think you need to really have success with a lead. I think you need enough touch points. We'll talk about that. You need a good script, and you need to nail your tonalities. Those are the three things I think you need. Yeah. And I think you can have great success. I don't think it comes down to more than that, in my opinion. Do you think I'm missing anything there?
I don't think you're missing anything. I do think that it does take work. It takes effort on the actual writing agent to actually take a lead and convert it, even with some of the best systems and strategies in place. One thing I wanted to mention, again, as founder of Lead Heroes and operating for, almost 10, 11 years now, I've seen this come up over and over where if the leads are so good, why is Glenn selling them? Why doesn't Glenn or Christian just work all the leads themselves and they become billionaires? Because there's so much more that goes into it, right? If it was that simple as just generating the lead and then it turns into an application, we wouldn't sell a single lead to anybody. But it does take effort and work on your end as the writing agent, or if you're the agency owner, right? Distributing these leads to the agents and making sure they're actually putting in that time and effort. And that's where that's the secret sauce, in my opinion, is the agent. And we'll see this all the time. We see it in the Facebook group all the time. People who report back publicly about their success with leads, with Lead Heroes leads or other leads. And it's a lot of times it takes hours and hours of work on their end. I think there's just this misconception in general in the industry among agents where they think you just buy the lead and then you get the application essentially on the
You're
back
paying
end.
for applications, not leads.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
there's this misconception with a huge portion of agents that think if I buy the leads, the applications, as soon as I pick up phone, like you said, they literally do have that idea that Mrs. Jones is just like, here's my info, thanks. Yeah.
They're tweaking on the other side of the phone. Yeah, I think like let's just kind of quickly unpack those three things, right? So touch points. I've said for a while now, your closing rate will be only as good as your contact rate. And the only way to get your contact rate up is to get your touch points up. So what are touch points? Touch points are how you're touching the lead, how you're reaching out to the lead. That can come from phone calls. That can come from text messages. That can come from emails. We used to kind of work in ringless voicemails. There's some compliance stuff to that. We've kind of taken that out of it. But probably those three things mostly. And so, you can automate the text messages and the emails with a program like 7-Figure CRM. There's other CRMs that you can do that with too. Again, we're doing 40 touch points without one phone call being included into that on every single lead.
Yes.
But I've always said the automations are not there to replace you calling the lead, but it's there to strengthen your ability to reach the lead. It increases people's ability to pick up because they recognize your messages, or maybe they'll reply to the messages, right? They might not ever answer a phone call, but they'll reply to a text to where you can have a conversation with them there. But essentially, I used to say, and in our office, we kind of encourage our agents to do this, but 8 to 10 phone calls for a lead. I feel like if you have really good automations, you could probably do 4 or 5 and you're going to be way ahead of the pack.
Yeah.
Most agents won't call through once or even, or let alone twice. You're going to need to call a few times, and you're going to need to try different times of the day. And you're going to need to call the sooner you can call when the lead comes in, the better. Because the more time that goes by, the lower their intent becomes. Because more time is removed from when they made the request. They forget about it. They're not as interested as they were in the moment, kind of thing. So that's super big. That's how you get your contact rate up. You need to be calling 4 or 5 times. Try in the morning, try in the afternoon, try in the evening, try different times of the day. Get to them quickly, and make sure that you have a lot of automations going out. And if you do that, I've always said you should be able to talk to and have some type of communication, even if they're just replying to a text. That counts for me. 60 to 80% of your leads. If you just follow that. And if you are talking to 60 to 80% of your leads, you're going to have a very healthy close ratio as a result most of the time, unless you just have a really bad sales process and script, which are the other two things.
That's the secret sauce, though, is the contact rate. What Christian said right there. If you're not speaking to, you get a batch of 100 leads and you're only talking to 5 or 10 of them, your statistical probability of having any sort of success or ROI with that lead order is almost zero, because you're just not having enough conversation. So the contact rate is really where this all starts. That's the magic. That's why the automations and the touch points are so important. There's so many different ways of doing that. We talked about 7-Figure CRM and what we're doing for you guys, the systems that we're creating and setting up to create more touch points to increase that contact rate. Really quickly, I'll mention when I was at LeadsCon last, it's been a few years, but when I was there last, there was a dialer company called Velocify, and they did an independent study on their internal system of 40,000 leads that came through their system. Between the number of leads that didn't get contacted at all was about a third of them. So about a third of those leads never got contacted one time by any salesperson. Then another roughly third of them only got contacted one time. So between no contact and one contact attempt, you're talking about 2/3 of the leads. So like Christian said, if you are making 4 to 5 contact attempts, you're already ahead of the pack. If you can do 8 to 10, even better. If you can have
Yeah.
some automations in place that are also you're utilizing technology, you're leveraging the tools you have in place. Maybe you have a virtual assistant, right? Maybe you have a member of your team that's also helping try to set appointments for you, trying to pre-qualify your leads. Maybe they're trying to transfer someone who's interested over to you right there on the spot. All of that helps your contact rate go up. And if 60% is a little bit on the low end, but again, if even at 60%, I think you can have success with the right systems in place. 80% is a great number. That's the number I would strive to hit with all of the lead orders. If there was a number I wanted to recommend to you guys, out of every 10 leads you get, hopefully you're talking to 10 of them. It doesn't mean full presentations. That doesn't mean you get 10 leads, you have full presentations with 8 of them. But like Christian said, it could be a text message. It could be call me next week. It could be maybe they're just not interested. They tell you no, or maybe it is a full presentation where they're like, yeah, I want to hear more about this now. And maybe you do every now and then get that senior that is like tweaking out, ready to sign up right there. It happens. You do get those ladies. I've had them, right? We've all had those, right? Where it's like, yeah, I'm ready to sign up. What do you need from me? Like,
I've been praying for your call every day for the last year.
Yeah.
And you were sent. Here you are.
Have you true or false? Have you ever had a senior tell you? I'm pretty sure you've already talked about this before, actually, but I know I've had it happen a couple of times too, where they believe it's divine intervention that I'm there.
A couple of times, not a lot. A couple of times.
Yeah.
I've told this story in the pod, but I had somebody when I was cold calling in my first year. I was probably only a month or two in cold calling, so I was really green. I spoke with this lady, her and her husband were turning 65 the same month. Very rare. You don't see that very often. And she said she'd call me. She said she'd take a message, talk to her husband, call me back. 1 trillion people say that. Usually 0% ever do. But she did, called back, and she said in the message that God wanted her to sign up with me. And I fumbled the bag because I was so green and I lost it. I went out on the appointment and I underwhelmed them with my knowledge. They could tell I was green. They could tell I didn't really know what I was talking about. But yeah, that's the one that always sticks in my craw a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it was the dumbest deal that there's ever been. And I whiffed on it. But let's talk about some of these other two just super briefly, right? They kind of go together, right? Scripting and tonality. So you can have a great script, but if your tone is all over the place,
poor delivery,
not good. In my first year, I thought I would do really well with a higher tone on the phone. I was experimenting with that, and I had people thinking I was a woman. Hey, it's me. So I went on a couple appointments, and I show up at the door. They're like, "Where's Christina?" I'm like, no, it's me. I'm the one you talked to. They're like, no, I spoke to a woman. Like, that happened a couple times. So, don't do that. But
Miss Medicare coming up, Christina.
Hey! But no, like, you got to get your tones right.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like everyone needs to use the same tone necessarily. Kind of depends on who you are. But like, if you've watched the video of me calling Lead Hero T65 leads, you kind of know like my tone is kind of like lower. It's a little bit relaxed. It's like, it's calm, right? For the most part, it's like, hey, the reason for the call to, that kind of thing. And I do that because I found over the years that if I can kind of put the consumer at ease and make them feel relaxed with me, that's been my best play. I've tried all different types of things. But everybody is a little different. Everybody has a little bit of a different style, but that's been overwhelmingly successful for me. And you can go back and watch that video and you can see situations where someone is ready to hang up on me and then they talk to me for 30 minutes. Because of that, I feel like that tone, right? Like that tone and ability to kind of quickly kind of come back and hit some objections with some rebuttals in a proper way, but in a non-threatening way, right? It's a kind of an art form. scripting, right? Like scripting's so big. You need a proper script. You can hear my script on that video. I won't take too much time and go into it, but like a quick script, get to the point script.
Yes. Yes.
Don't sound like a salesperson if you can avoid it. Script.
Yep.
Right. Don't say Mrs. Jones. Use their first name. Don't say I'm Christian with Everything Senior Insurance unless they would, for some reason, know what Everything Senior Insurance is. A lot of times they won't, or they won't remember. So like, this is Christian. This is Christian with a handy dandy insurance, None of that. This is Christian. The reason for my call is blah, so quick to the point, precise. I think all of that makes for a good script.
Yeah. I think, the tonality thing's a big one, and that's something it took me a while to figure out. That was one that took a lot of practice. I definitely slowly started to talk deeper and slower. You kind of think about it like, if you're listening to, how do I say this? Like it could be like an authoritative person, like a military general, and they're trying to give orders, there's something about, there's something around the psychology of deepening that tone. And in my opinion, and again, I don't want to say that you have to have a super deep voice to have success on the phone. I don't think that's necessarily true, but there is something about having, in my opinion, it's like a little bit of a slower cadence and a little bit of a deeper tone. And it's like people are listening closer to what you're saying. And that's kind of the direction I ultimately went as an agent when I was contacting leads. I think a quick script is super important. There's another super common error that we see a lot is if an agent's failing, and I'll ask them, I'll say, hey, do you have a recording of your calls? Can I listen to one of your calls? Let me see what's going on. There are so many times where an agent is just going in the complete wrong direction. Super long script. Their intro is like 5 minutes, or they think pandering. They think pandering to Mrs. Jones about what the weather's like is like such a great move.
That makes me nauseous.
Yeah. Oh, some great weather we're having today, huh? What are you up to this weekend, Mrs. Jones?
Who is this? That's kind of what happens after that. Like,
yeah.
Who are you?
What do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want? What is this? Yeah.
I've had salespeople call me about various things, and I never actually know what they're calling about because they do that. And I'm like, I don't have time for this. And I hang up the phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think those are really, really big ones. Like, not good. I think I've always said you have a finite period of time. People, I think it's debatable on exactly how much time, but I think you have somewhere between 6 to maybe 10 seconds at the most before they're just pushing you off the phone, and you have to use that time wisely. You have to get in what you're going to say very quickly. I think reminding them of how they requested information is huge.
That's a big one.
Like
simple,
like the first thing you say almost, right?
Yeah.
Because that makes it so much less likely that they're going to disconnect, because the fact of the matter is, with any lead that you have, they have agreed or requested to talk to someone, and they know it. So if you can remind them of that early and often, that works pretty good. There's people where they request information. They know they requested information, but if you don't tell them that that's what you're calling about, they think you're a cold caller.
Yeah. 100%.
They don't realize you're calling about that request.
100%.
And once you remind them, then they're like, oh yeah. I want to talk to you, kind of thing, So that's a big mistake I see a lot of agents make, is just not reference how the lead was generated, how they requested the information.
So, the title of the episode today is how to actually have success working leads. So in my opinion, the definition of success in this context is getting a positive ROI.
Yeah.
You know, the goal would be you spend $1,000 and hopefully you're generating $2,000-3,000 in income, in revenue, or more, right? With every order, right? Every dollar you spend, my definition of success with marketing or buying leads would be you spend $1 and you're generating $2 or $3, and then you're or more, right? I mean, it could be $5, it could be $10, but seeing that positive ROI every time you're spending on marketing, that's the definition of success in my mind. So how do you have that success? Another piece of this is tracking. You know, what is the value of that client, right? Making sure that you know what the value of that client that you're generating is, and knowing how much you spent. And part of where I think agents get lost in this conversation too is, you know, you bought leads 3 months ago, 4 months ago, all of a sudden you get someone that you convert. Are you able to attribute that sale to that original lead order and have a true ROI, a true return on your, you know, in the advertising world, they call it ROAS, right? Return on ad spend. In this sense, again, it's that return on lead spend, that return on marketing. Because if you don't do that, you guys, if you're not tracking the actual dollars going out versus dollars in, let me tell you what happens. And again, this comes from a decade of experience in this space. What happens is you're going off of emotions. You're going off your feelings. You're going off of, you know, I had some good calls, so I'm going to keep buying leads. You know, it needs to be, you want to have pen and paper math. You want to see dollars and cents on this. Trust me. Data-driven decision making. We've talked about this on the pod before too. It's everything. It's super important. There's so many agents who will have a good ROI, but then they're not actually seeing the numbers, and they're like, maybe I'll buy some more leads later. And it's like, well, if you put the pen to paper on this, you just did a 3, 4, 5x return on your money. Why would you not be trying to jam every dollar you have through this system if you're getting that type of ROI? Because you're not looking at it on paper. You're not tracking it. You don't have your KPIs. You don't have your metrics. Maybe you're not using a CRM at all. You know, that's killer in this context. If you want to be successful, you need to know your numbers. You really do.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I would definitely agree. I think, how can you possibly know your level of success, or kind of what you're getting out of a lead, or what you can tweak, how you can better increase efficiency, if you're not tracking your numbers, if you're not tracking every metric that you can? It's everything. So I think that's a big part of this. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. I want to move into final thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I'll kind of start. My final thoughts are, there's plenty of agents around the country that have a lot of success with leads. Is it possible to get an order that just maybe doesn't go your way for anybody? Certainly, especially if it's a smaller order, right? If it's like not a huge sample size. That being said, though, if there's people having success with a lead type and you're not, there's something you can change and make your process better. There's some, like, right? Like, if it can't be the lead, if person A is working the lead, same lead, and they're having success, and person B is, and they're not, right? It can't be the lead. Right. You know, the variable that's different there is who's working it.
Yes.
People get mad when I say that. I've made comments before where I've gotten as bold as saying it's never the lead, it's always the agent. There's probably some exceptions to that. There's probably some leads that like are unsellable, you know, but
that is the rule. That's the rule.
Those situations are the exceptions and not the rule. That is the rule. So you can definitely have success with leads, and you can have a lot of success with leads if you follow this blueprint and this formula we've laid out. And we put out so much content over the years about how to do this. Just search on YouTube. You can find it. There's a million little videos and tidbits on this over the years of us talking about this together.
I
have never had a lead source I couldn't have success with. Even calling, you know, even in my early days of calling data lists, not even leads, I'm literally just sitting there dialing data lists. I could make sales from those. And it's because I have all these things that we talked about locked in. I would have all these things we've talked about locked in. So yeah, I think It's doable. It's possible. And get your $25 T65 leads. What you doing? What you doing? What you doing with your life?
Don't be a wackadoo.
Don't be a wackadoo, as a wise man once said.
We were watching this video the other day, you guys. You may have seen it, but it was a compilation video of reviews we've gotten from Lead Heroes clients who've had success with our leads. And Christian, it's like, I said something crazy in this video, and I didn't remember what it was.
Yeah,
and we're watching it back, and then all of a sudden he's like, "If you're not buying leads from Lead Heroes, you might be a bit of a wackadoo." I was like, "Wackadoo!" I'm like,
and it was great because, like, that was I believe that was shot in 2020. I'm walking down the streets. I have like headphones in.
Yeah.
And, it was the first year of the Facebook group. So I was just starting to kind of to break onto the scene. People just starting to learn who I was. I was I was starting to get recognized, but I was a little unknown at the same time. So it's just funny to go back and watch that,
that's funny.
Yeah. Great video. If you guys want to see it, reach out. We can definitely send it to you of me making a fool of myself.
That's right. Guys, my final thoughts today on how to actually have success working leads. So, to give you kind of a quick overview or recap of essentially what we just discussed, having metrics in place where your cost to acquire that client and what that client's worth. So, if turning 65 market as an example, maybe it's $250 to acquire that client. And, that'd be like 10 leads. And then the client, a Medicare client, in my opinion, is worth at least $1,000, if not more. There's obviously a debate about what is the true lifetime value of someone new to Medicare. But when you talk about the renewals and potentially having this person on the books for 10 or 15 years, if you have a retention process in place, I'd argue it's even closer to $2,000. So now you're looking at, an ROI of somewhere in the ballpark of 5 to 10x of what you spent. So knowing those metrics is super important, having that trackability in place. And then, when it comes to actually working the lead itself, those touch points, the first thing you need to do is get that contact rate as high as you can, whether that's them responding to a text message, them responding to a phone call. Someone in the comments here on the stream asked, do you leave a voicemail? Me personally, I would only leave a voicemail once it was kind of like a last ditch effort. If it was my last phone call I'm making to that, I'm not leaving a voicemail every single time, because sometimes by leaving a voicemail, it might keep that person from wanting to talk to you, especially if you say something like, "Hey, I'm an insurance agent, call me back." That's the type. We talked about word choice the other day on the pod, and that's another piece of this, right? Is you have all these little things of how you can fine tune your sales process, your system for success. So, get that contact rate up, and then once your contact rate goes up, now we're looking at presentations, right? How many of those that you actually spoke with or had some sort of communication with? How many of those were you actually able to present to? And then of those that you were able to present to, how many actually turned into written applications? And by kind of looking at it through this system, this process, you can troubleshoot what's going wrong. If your contact rate's super low and you're like, "Man, why am I not getting the sales?" Well, let's look at the contact rate. Let's get that up first. If the contact rate is good and you're still not getting the sales, it's like, well, what's going on in that presentation? Because maybe you're saying something, the wrong word choice where you're losing a bunch of people. And then if the presentations are good and you're still not getting the applications, it's like, well, we might have a closing problem here. How are we wrapping up our sales? So that's how, again, if over the years, if someone came to me at Lead Heroes and they said, "Glenn, I'm struggling to get the sales that I want, the ROI that I want out of these leads," that's what I'm doing with agents and agency owners, is I'm going through these different metrics of what's the contact rate, what's the presentation rate to that contact, what's the close rate of those presentations, and then potentially even looking at those phone calls, right? Talk to your upline, talk to a peer in the industry. If you're really confused, figure out what's going on if you do have presentations that aren't turning into sales. So that is my final thoughts on today's episode. Again, don't be a wackadoo. Grab your Turning 65 lead, almost 50% off now until the end of day Friday. So we have less than 3 days remaining. Link is in the comments on the stream, or you can head over to leadheroes.com. That's my final thoughts.
Guys, appreciate you watching all the way to the end, episode 99. Make sure to tune in tomorrow, Thursday, May 8th, for episode 100, special 2-hour edition, live Q&A. We'll have other topics in case questions get slow, but we'll prioritize questions more than anything else.
For sure.
We'll see you guys there. Make sure to comment on the live stream in the Facebook group for a chance to be entered into Freebie Friday. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. We certainly would appreciate it. Make sure to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to audio-only platforms such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you might like to consume your podcast content. And we'll see you guys on the next one with the 7 Figures and Bust podcast. Thanks, everybody. Here's to your massive success.